Hey VV Nation, welcome back for part 2 of our special interview with our founder, Dr. Bart DiLiddo. Let's get into it. I have an essay that probably my favorite essay I've read over the years of actually being here. Obviously I've read more than that since my father used VectorVest well before I started working here. October 4th of 2019, you wrote an essay about the modern monetary theory.
Uh-huh.
One of the most fascinating articles or essays I've probably read because, being an economics major, I find this type of topic very fascinating. Modern monetary theory believes that it's as long as aggregate demand doesn't outstrip real goods and services available for purchase, then inflation should be a non-factor. In the modern monetary framework, how do you see the effects of lockdowns and stimulus playing a role on the markets over the next year or 2 years? Because that seems to be, especially with all the moves that the Fed has made, that Congress has made, we seem to be trying to move into more of a modern monetary policy rather than the traditional policies that we've been used to. So the Federal Reserve is responsible for managing the total outstanding supply of US dollars and dollar substitutes. And then one step further of that is that, modern monetary policy basically states that they can create an infinite money supply as long as the demand doesn't outpace how many, goods and services are out there. So now we're all
Yeah,
of a sudden seeing shortages. So demand is outpacing the
it's happening
goods
right
and
now.
services, and we've started seeing inflation picking up because of that, based off the modern monetary theory there. Um, and is that sustainable? Do you agree with that? That we are still moving more towards that modern monetary policy where basically, companies or the government basically can create infinite supply because they're the new world order. The dollar is so strong and so widely used that they're too big to fail, essentially. And so therefore the debt that we have, the trillions of dollars that we have in debt isn't really as big of a worry as it used to be, because we're focusing more on the new policies rather than the
All right,
old
I
mindset of
understand,
Keynesian
but I got to
economics.
ask you a question.
Sure.
Do you believe this is true?
Yes. You wrote this back in 2019, and I never forget this article. And when I see, what happened in 2020 with the lockdowns, um, the policies that have been made by the Fed and by Congress or the government over the last few years, uh, they're all reminiscent of your essay. So I feel it's very true, that we seem to be moving into that type of mentality. I guess time will tell how effective going off of unlimited spending will be, but yeah, it does seem that we're starting to move towards this modern monetary theory.
Well, it I wrote this back in 2019, and that's when it really started. You remember Ben Bernanke?
Mm-hmm. Helicopter
He
Ben.
said he said that if they had to spur the economy on again, they can drop money from airplanes. That's essentially what Biden is doing. He can't spend enough money. I mean, he's spending trillions and trillions.
Mm-hmm.
I listened to him this morning on TV. He's giving 15 billion to this country and billions for this and billions for that. And uh, that theory is fatally flawed. The new monetary theory is a joke. Is a joke because so this is what happened to Venezuela. You know, the politicians used to give people uh, refrigerators and stoves and stuff like that to be elected, and now the politicians are giving people free money. And one of these days, uh, you know, these problems are going to come home to roost. I feel. I I wrote this. I wrote this with a tinge of sarcasm in it. Uh, it's called fiat money. All you need is ink and a printing press.
I think
Now,
that printing press is running out of ink soon.
something's going to happen uh, because, well, it's really the first step towards socialism. And there's a lot of people that are interested in getting something for nothing. I didn't grow up like that. And the United States didn't become the greatest country in the history of the planet that way. But I'm afraid that there are forces there that are heading us in that direction. I don't want to talk politics, but you know that inflation is out of the box. Powell has not raised interest rates yet.
Mm-hmm.
And they're telling us that inflation is temporary because they don't want you to panic. Well, one of these days, maybe a year from now, they're going to be saying the same thing. But, you know, there's this great economist. He was the head of economics department at MIT. And he said there's no free lunches. And everybody's looking for a free lunch. Well, one of these days, the free lunches aren't going to be available anymore. Now, Margaret Thatcher became, the head of Prime Minister of Great Britain, of the United Kingdom, after Winston Churchill was defeated. Winston Churchill was a great guy. He brought the UK through the war and everything. And then he got defeated because the people were tired of him and they were looking for a free lunch. So the UK voted him out and they started going down a tube because they wanted to head towards socialism. Well, Margaret Thatcher came along at the same time that uh, Ronald Reagan was president in the 80s, and she tightened the screws. And she says that socialism is good until you run out of money. And you're going to run out of money, even if you're printing it.
And so, yeah, just to quote the very last line of this essay, it's the part that I remember the most. You stated, once upon a time, our politicians acted like they cared about the national debt, but those days are gone. A new line of thinking is taken over, which explains a lot. It says that sovereign countries like the U.S. are not operationally constrained by revenues when it comes to federal government spending. It's called the new monetary theory. So that goes along with what we've seen with the lockdowns, the stimulus checks we've seen over the last year, the increased unemployment benefits, and it seems like nobody worries about those national debt issues anymore. It's all about, spending. And even no matter what side of the aisle you're on, it's all about spending anymore. There's nobody out there that seems to be fighting for, fixing the national debt that much anymore. So,
well, we got to be careful. We can't say there's nobody.
Very few. Let me say very
I'm out
few.
Here. The party in power doesn't seem to be worried about it.
True. So a little more lighthearted here. Those are some of the harder questions. As we all know, you're the stock guru. Any hot stocks that you're looking at currently? I know, you gave us Extro Technologies a year and a half ago almost at this point when it was 30, 40 cents on the share. We all see what that's done. You have any other hot stocks you're looking at?
Well, I'm always looking for hot stocks. I can tell you what my favorite stock is, and it's sort of stalled a little while, but it's going to go higher as time goes by, and that's NVIDIA. I love NVIDIA. They are the superstars of computing. They are in so many things. They are so far ahead of anybody else. It's unreal. But I bought another stock just recently. Um, Go into Stock Viewer. Here, RGEN.
Yep.
Look at the graph of that stock. It's up 7 points today. Uh, Patrick, go back 10 years. Give us a 10-year graph.
All right. Whew.
Now, that's the kind of babies I like. And there's a lot of them. You can see a lot of these in VectorVest. But I like the tail end of this thing. Look at the tail end of it.
That's pretty. Nice breakout out of consolidation recently.
Yeah.
That thing's exploding right now.
Now, what does Repligen do? They make a
Biotech?
material that is called a protein A ligand. A ligand is a chemical term. It means it attaches to something else, or something else can attach. They make a material that is used in a process that is called chromatic purification. And what they do is they make this material and they sell it to other biochemical companies. You know, in a chemical process, you dump a lot of stuff in a pot, you stir it up, you heat it up, and then you got to get the good stuff out from the bad stuff. And that's called the purification process.
Mm-hmm.
Well, these chromatographs do that.
Oh,
I
wow.
happen to have allergies, but they don't bother me anymore because I take Claritin. Claritin is made through a chromatic purification system. And the demand for these systems is great. But so in other words, they got a real solid business. And you know, the biochemical world just got started basically in 1950. I don't know how many people that may see this video. I think all you guys were born after 1950, right? Well, in 1950, they discovered the double helix DNA, and companies went on from there. And now you have CRISPR. Uh, and there are many, many other companies. Biochemical companies are popping up all the time. And when I see a biochemical company popping up, what I do now, this is a deep, dark secret. I never told anybody this. What I do is I look at the graph of the stock, and it could be $2 or $3. And I don't care what else is important. I look at the average volume. Did the average volume go up? Did it double? Did it triple? Did it increase by over 1 million shares a day? When you see that, man, you can jump on that horse. Even though the fundamentals stink. Because that company, just do it today. Hey, Patrick,
Yep.
go into Teeny Boppers.
All right.
We have a search engine. It's called Unisearch, and we got something like, I don't know, 200-300 searches in here. The only problem is knowing which ones are the best ones. And one of my favorites is Teeny Boppers. Go ahead and run that search as of today. Look at this little guy called Leap Therapeutics, up 14% today. And all of these guys are up today. Plot the graph. All right. Now, the thing you want to do with this graph is go to add parameter and go to price volume, go to 50-day moving average. Click on that. You see down here in the lower right-hand corner, what's happening to that average volume? Look at that sucker. And you see those green spikes?
Yep.
Does that show any interest in this stock?
I'd say so.
What's the earnings per share? Look at EPS.
Looks
over
like
here.
it's rising over the last year, pulling back a little bit right now, but still higher over a year basis.
Yeah, but if you look at the data set, it's minus 50 cents a share. And here I said, don't buy stocks that are losing money, okay? That's for the newbies, all right? Once you know what you're doing, you know, you let the trend be your friend. And look at this thing. Look at the last 5 days.
It's gone from about $1.85 to $3.20 or so. So almost doubled in the last week or so.
How you like that?
I'd take that any day of the week.
Yeah. And you know, I gave you a hint here that could be worth a fortune.
Mm-hmm.
So just don't tell anybody. But this is what VectorVest is all about. VectorVest is a fantastic system. I mean, this is why I love it, and I still play with it.
So on another subject, you know, obviously you've been investing for years, ever since you started, well, getting into the VectorVest side of things back in the 70s, but even before that. What is one piece of advice that somebody told you that you feel is the most important thing you've learned that you want to pass on to new investors, for example? So that's going to conclude part 2 of our special interview. Hopefully you enjoyed today's interview. And if you did, as always, smash that like button. And if you're not already subscribed to the channel, make sure to hit that red subscribe button down in the bottom right and turn on the notifications so that way you get notified when part 3 gets released. See you then.